Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be doing a 10-team PPR mock draft from the first overall spot on Fantasy Pros Draft Wizard. Inside today's video, we're going to be drafting up against the NFL.com ADP, so it's going to be a lot like we are drafting on NFL inside of today's video. The main focus of these mock draft videos is to get you guys to kind of understand why I am making each and every single pick inside the draft, as well as discussing the draft as a whole, the other picks that are going on around me, so you guys can kind of really understand how I'm feeling and what I'm looking to be doing inside of a 10-team PPR mock draft from the first overall spot, as well as what I would have done from other scenarios, because inside the draft, some people will make some crazy decisions, and I like to talk about those and talk about why I would have looked differently at that spot. But before we get on in to this mock draft, I would like to ask, if you are new to the YouTube channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, to please make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below. Not only is it free, I put out this content every single day to help you guys win your 2021 Fantasy Football Championship. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you hit that like button down below to help boost this video up the algorithm so that more beautiful people like yourself can see today's video. I would also like to let you guys know that my rankings are available for free on Osmo.com. The link to those will be down below in the description. The link to my articles will also be down below in the description, as well as in the pinned comment. So please make sure that you guys check out my rankings as well as my articles. The rankings are updated basically every single day. It's about to be the true draft season. A lot of people draft this weekend for fantasy football draft, so I'm trying to make sure that you guys are as ready as possible to win your league. So make sure you guys check all that out. So without further ado, let's get into the video. So the roster positions for this 10-team PPR mock draft is 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, flex, kicker, defense, and 6 bench spots. Now, we are drafting up against the NFL.com ADP, so it is going to be a lot like we are drafting on NFL.com, but we are going up against the computer today. Sitting at the number 1 overall spot, there is basically no decision to be made. You should already know, and if you don't know, I'm going to explain exactly why Christian McCaffrey is the locked and loaded number 1 pick for fantasy football in 2021. And I'm not just talking in PPR. Now, this is a PPR video, but it's standard, half PPR, full PPR. I'm taking Christian McCaffrey at the number 1 overall pick every single fucking time. And the reason behind that is because Christian McCaffrey is a running back whose ceiling could legitimately be 35 plus PPR points per game. That is the ceiling. But the floor, his lowest outcome every single week, is like 20 to 25 PPR points in those games. When he scores 20 points, that is an above average week at the running back position. One of the top running back finishes on the week, and you will feel a little bit disappointed. But then there's going to be other weeks where this motherfucker drops like 35 plus points right on your opponent's face, and 20 points should not be disappointing to you, but with Christian McCaffrey, it is, because this guy last season, I understand that he only played in 3 games. He was averaging over 30 plus PPR points per game in those 3 matchups. I believe in 2021, it is a no-brainer to select Christian McCaffrey at the number 1 overall pick. And I think if you look elsewhere, if you were to draft Dalvin Cook, Alvin Kamara, basically anyone besides Christian McCaffrey at the number 1 overall pick, you are basically setting yourself up for failure, at least in my opinion, because I think Christian McCaffrey is just an upper echelon player at the running back position. You can almost, if you're doing tiered rankings, put Christian McCaffrey in a tier of his own in the number 1 tier. After McCaffrey came Dalvin Cook, who is basically the 1-2 punch of the drafts early on. You see Christian McCaffrey be number 1, and then number 2 is Dalvin Cook basically 99% of the time. Now, with Dalvin Cook, it's not as much of a lock as it is with Christian McCaffrey at the number 1 overall pick, but a majority of drafts I've been in, Dalvin Cook is the number 2 overall pick. After that, Derrick Henry, Alvin Kamara, 9-inch Nicholas Chubb, Travis Kelsey, Saquon Barkley, Aaron Jones, Austin Eckler, and Ezekiel Elliott. Inside of the first round, you are going to see it be 50 Shades of Grey level domination by the running back position. Here we see 1 non-running back go inside the first round, and that is Travis Kelsey. In a 10-team league, people really do like to get that tight end really early because the positional advantage is just so strong. Now, I understand that it's not an 8-team league, but in a majority of 10-team leagues, every single team is stacked. Every single team has great running backs. Every single team has great wide receivers. Every single team has a good quarterback, but not every team has the number one tight end. Not every team has a safe tight end week in and week out, and that's what Travis Kelsey gives you. So that's why people take him a little bit earlier in 10-team leagues. I would be more comfortable sitting around the 8, 9, 10 spot to take Travis Kelsey. I definitely would not take Nick Chubb ahead of Aaron Jones, Austin Eckler, or Ezekiel Elliott as well. I like Nick Chubb a lot as a player, but the situation to me in Cleveland, I understand they're a very run-heavy team, but with Kareem Hunt there, I just do not love the situation as a whole for Nick Chubb to potentially finish as a top 5 running back, but on the season, he's going to be a top 10 running back, top 12 running back, and he'll be perfectly fine as long as you don't draft him at the number 5 overall spot. The second round begins, and this is when the wide receiver position starts to really open up. Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, Jonathan Taylor, Patty Mahomes, Stephon Diggs, Najee Harris, Antonio Gibson, DeAndre Hopkins, and Calvin Ridley. Patrick Mahomes going inside of the second round is one of those picks that baffles me every single time. Why would you take a quarterback early here in Patrick Mahomes when you can just wait 2 rounds or 3 rounds and get one of the other top 5 quarterbacks? Because to me, in my opinion, I know I've talked about this a lot in these mock drafts, there is not too much of a difference between Mahomes and Dak Prescott. I wouldn't be surprised if Dak Prescott, who is my quarterback number 5, outscored Patrick Mahomes. That's why I don't really understand reaching up a couple of rounds to draft Patrick Mahomes. So we've seen 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 out of the first 19 picks have been non-running backs. In this draft, we saw the second round really open up the wide receiver position. In a lot of drafts, this does happen, but you also really see in the third round, most times, now it may not happen in this draft because we've seen so many wide receivers come off the board that the third round is just a barrage of people hammering in on the wide receiver position. Early on in drafts, I talked about this in a draft strategy video for early on draft strategy, early round draft strategy, is that the first 2 rounds of fantasy drafts, it is a 75% hit rate at running back and at wide receiver. But at running back, the dip off from the first and second round to the third and fourth round is much stronger than wide receiver. And then after that, from the 4th to the 5th round, there's a big drop off at running back hit rate as well. So that's why people like to gobble up them running backs early on in drafts. It just feels a lot safer. Now, can you win your league going fucking triple wide receiver at the beginning of the draft? Yes, you can. But if you're at the number 1 overall spot, and you take anyone other than Christian McCaffrey, in my opinion, you are really hurting your roster. So here at running back, Joe Mixon, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, DeAndre Swift, Chris Carson, David Montgomery. Looking at wide receivers, Justin Jefferson, DK Metcalf, A.J. Brown, Keenan Allen, and Allen Robinson. Here, this is a no-brainer, at least for my first wide receiver. We're going to go with rookie phenom from last season, Justin Jefferson. Now, if I'm being completely honest with you guys, I say that a lot in my videos, I did not think Justin Jefferson was going to have this electric season in 2020. I thought, hey, it would take a little bit with all these rookie wide receivers because, hey, it was a COVID offseason. They don't have this training camp. They had training camp, right? But it wasn't training camp like it was this year. They didn't have preseason as all. I thought the connection wasn't going to be there really with him and Kirk Cousins. But after week 2, the first 2 games, they were dicey. But then from week 3 on, this man was on a war path in fantasy football and in real life. Obviously, this man was dominating those defenses, and I believe he's going to be able to potentially finish as a top 5 wide receiver for fantasy football in 2021. So I really do like that value at the end of the second round. So here we're probably going to go and double in on the wide receiver position because I'm not ultra confident in the running backs that are available. Now, am I fine drafting Joe Mixon here? 100%. Am I fine taking Clyde Edwards-Helaire? 100%. But I'd much rather dive into the wide receiver or the tight end position at this pick because I'm already so confident with Christian McCaffrey that I'm willing to take a little bit more of a risk and wait 19 picks until my 4th round pick to take another running back. While that may not be as talented as a guy like Joe Mixon, I'd rather have the upside of these elite wide receivers potentially being on my roster, or maybe we go the way of a tight end. So looking at the tight end position, George Kittle as well as Darren Waller are available. I have Darren Waller ranked ahead of George Kittle, and if I'm being honest with you, while they are the big 3 tight ends, Travis Kelsey, Darren Waller, and George Kittle, I personally believe that Darren Waller is really another level above George Kittle. So with that said, I definitely do like Darren Waller here at pick number 21. I think in a lot of drafts, he's going to creep his way into the end of the second round. A lot of times, if you really want Darren Waller, I would suggest pressing the draft button inside of the end of the second round for because in a lot of leagues, he's not going to fall to you inside of the third round. But here we are going to go wide receiver. Now, we are going to make a pick that I personally do not agree all that much with. But because when you play fantasy football, you want to change it up every single time you're doing a mock draft. And in your real fantasy football drafts, if you're in like 10 leagues, you don't want to draft the same players every single time in the third round. And especially if I'm making videos, I don't want to draft the same player every single time inside the third round, because I believe that the discussion then is limited. You're basically watching the same mock draft every single time. So we are going to go with a pick that I do not like. I'm going to talk about it, and I'm also going to talk about his upside. And that player is DK Metcalf. Now, I am basically on the polar opposite of most fantasy football analysts, most fantasy football players, as most believe that DK Metcalf is going to have an excellent season in 2021. And I understand it. The guy's build, the dude's a fucking freak athlete. He basically, I make this reference in a lot of videos, he looks like he's etched out of stone. He looks like a Greek god that they would have a statue of in, guess where they would have those? In Greece. But in my opinion, I think that the Seattle Seahawks are going to be a little bit more run-heavy this season. If the defense is able to play like they played deep down the stretch of last season, then they're going to be able to run the ball a little bit more, and that's going to hurt Metcalf. And Lockett was severely inconsistent last season, and if Lockett was to become more inconsistent, or more consistent, I should say, then DK Metcalf will, in turn, become more inconsistent, because last season, when Metcalf lights it up, Tyler Lockett is nowhere to be found on the stat sheet. But when Lockett lights it up, the same thing goes with DK Metcalf. He's not really doing anything. So if this offense either goes more the way of Tyler Lockett or more run heavy, I think that DK Metcalf is going to struggle in 2021. But again, there is the other side. There's the devil and the angel on my shoulder. And the angel for DK Metcalf is telling me, look at DK Metcalf. Look how fast this motherfucker is. Look how good he is. Look at Russell Wilson. Look at all of this offense. Look at how well DK Metcalf played last season. So I'm going to draft him here. Again, I do suggest that if you play in a bunch of different leagues, to try different things. So here we're going to go with DK Metcalf, who I normally don't pick, but now, since I completely faded him in a majority of drafts, if he ends up hitting, then I won't have missed in every single league. I think DK Metcalf is a very, very good player. It's just the situation there in Seattle that I am pretty cautious about, but in the third round, the value is certainly there, considering most of the time he goes in the middle of the second round. Definitely, when I see him go ahead of Calvin Ridley, I really shake my head, because that really does confuse me, because Calvin Ridley is the clear number one on an offense that's going to be throwing the ball a shit ton in Atlanta, whereas Metcalf, they might run the ball a little bit more. So after I went DK Metcalf came Darren Waller, A.J. Brown, George Kittle, me Timbers, Allen Robinson, Josh Allen, Clyde, Edwards-Helaire, Julio Jones, Joe Mixon, Keenan Allen, Terry McLaurin, CeeDee Lamb, Mike Evans, Robert Woods, DeAndre Swift, Chris Godwin, Amari Cooper, David Montgomery, and Chris Carson. But before we get into the breakdown of the rest of the draft, I'd like to ask, if you guys are new to my YouTube channel, you do end up enjoying today's video thus far, please make sure that you hit the subscribe button down below. Again, not only is it free, I'm putting out this content every single day to help you guys win your 2021 Fantasy Football Championship. So please make sure that you subscribe. Make sure you hit that like button as well if you have enjoyed. I really do appreciate that. So back into the video. See the third, the fourth round, many more wide receivers going when compared to the running back position. Just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 running backs going off the board thus far in the third and fourth round. So I do really like the running backs that are available at this spot, because a lot of people are hammering in on wide receivers. So we get some nice running back value, and we're definitely going to go with at least one running back on this 4-5 round turn here. And we're going to go with James Robinson, running back of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, James Robinson is in a scenario here to really succeed in 2021, but I believe his top 12 potential may be slightly handicapped by the fact that Carlos Hyde is going to cut into his value. Now, Carlos Hyde isn't going to cut deep into you like he was stabbing you like his name was O.J. Simpson or something, but he is going to cut enough in to kind of derail, in my opinion, a potential top 12 season from James Robinson. But would I be surprised if Urban Meyer turned it on and realized, man, I need to give the ball to James Robinson more? I hope so, and if that is the case, James Robinson really could be a top 10 running back just like he was last season. I understand the Jacksonville Jaguars are basically the opposite of a situation you look for in a running back, but we saw James Robinson do it last year on a bad team, and this is a team that really, they improved, obviously. The roster's a lot better, but this isn't a team that's going to win like 8 games, right? I expect them to maybe win like 4, 5, 6 games on the season. Maybe that's low, but if I'm being completely serious with you guys, That's probably how I see it. And even if they suck complete and utter ass, they're still going to be able to run the ball in these games. After we went ahead and went with James Robinson, guess who came off the board? Absolutely fucking nobody, because we are the next pick. And here we are going to go with wide receiver. A nice 2 running back, 3 wide receiver start in the first 5 rounds. Looking at the wideouts available, Cooper Kupp, DJ Moore, Deontay Johnson, Tyler Lockett, T. Higgins, Adam Thielen, Brandon Ayuk, Odell Beckham Jr. Where did they put Kenny Golladay? He's down now at 31, which I understand. I understand why they moved him down, because he is still not back from that injury. He's still not back. He's still not practicing, which is terrible, right? He should be back by now, so I'm pulling back too. I'm detracting my statements. If he comes back, then boom, he's fine. He should be good to go. I don't like the Giants' offense, but he should be fine. But otherwise, if he's not back, don't be looking to draft him. That is very worrisome. So here, normally we would go with Deontay Johnson, but again, I'm trying to do things a little bit different in every single draft. I like Deontay Johnson a lot. He's the clear, in my opinion, #1 target in Pittsburgh, but here we're going to go with Cooper Kupp, wide receiver of the LA Rams. A very, very safe pick with a lot of upside this season. If Matthew Stafford leads this offense the way that I believe he will, I believe this offense is a lot like the Detroit Lions in 2019. We have Kenny Golladay really light it up. Kenny Golladay in this offense for the LA Rams, that's going to be Robert Woods. Marvin Jones, who always gets underdrafted, who played really well in 2019. The Marvin Jones is going to be Cooper Kupp. So I believe that both those wide receivers could easily have top 24 seasons this year. Now, shout out to Juju Smith-Schuster, who, if you guys follow me on Twitter, @NotoriousFNTSY, I tweeted a video of Juju Smith-Schuster doing the milk carton challenge. Maybe that's not what it's called. The milk carton challenge. I don't know what it's called. It's where they run up those weird ass like boxes, milk boxes, maybe that's what it's called. I don't know, but they run. It's basically one of the dumbest and most dangerous things you can do. And for some reason, Juju, less than 2 weeks before the season starts, decides to do that. This dude, now I don't know what Juju Smith-Schuster thinks, but to me, like what are you doing, dude? What do you do now? Who am I to judge this guy in reality, though, right? I'm just some fucking 22-year-old asshole who sits here with a microphone and judges what this guy does. This guy makes millions of dollars, but I just don't understand why he's doing that. Like, why are you risking injury for like an Instagram video, a TikTok? I don't understand it. So after Cooper Kupp, Kim, DJ Moore, Deontay Johnson, Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, Miles Sanders, Mark Andrews, Dickey, Dak Prescott, Adam Thielen, Josh Jacobs, Kyle Pitts, Aaron Rodgers, Tyler Lockett, Brandon Ayuk, Chase Claypool, Michael Thomas, Odell Beckham Jr., TJ Hawkinson, and T. Higgins. Now, a clip of Kyle Pitts came out for that preseason game where he just ran through these dudes in a straight line, and Twitter exploded. Who would have known that a big tight end like Kyle Pitts could run through some people? Crazy. But yeah, here we go. When I was talking about Mahomes earlier, I said, oh, you could wait a couple of rounds and then get like one of the other discounted quarterbacks. See? You paid a second-round pick for Mahomes when you could have waited until the 5th round and gotten Lamar or Kyler Murray. Now, in this person's case, they would have been able to get Dak, but I don't really understand drafting that quarterback early when you can wait and get much better value inside of the 4th or 5th round with, sure, they're not the #1 quarterback. They're not Patrick Mahomes, but they could easily outscore Patrick Mahomes this season. So we're back up on the board here. We still do not have a tight end, but we have entered the tight end dead zone after all those top 5, top 6 tight ends come off the board. And it's not really a dead zone because I think Logan Thomas, Noah Fant, Dallas Goedert, Robert Tonyan, all those guys could be good. But I don't really see how one is clearly better than another to where I want to dive in there like I'm fucking Michael Phelps to draft one of these guys that early, so I'd rather just wait. So we are going to look running back here because there are still a couple of running backs that I really like. Now, it is a true coin flip between these 3 running backs. I like Mike Davis the second most. I like Henderson the most. I like Myles Gaskin the third most. But if you ask me tomorrow, I might tell you that I like Myles Gaskin the most because they're in that similar kind of range. Myles Gaskin is probably not the safest bet. Now, I'm a Dolphins fan. I told everyone all offseason long that this is Myles Gaskin's backfield, and it is. He's the #1 back, but they're still going to use Salvon Ahmed. They're still going to use Malcolm Brown. For Mike Davis, there is literally no one behind him. There is no one that even puts an ounce of fear into my body that will be able to somehow take touches away from Mike Davis. Darrell Henderson, they bring in Sony Michel. I believe Sony Michel, sure, he's there, but he's there to be the #2 running back because I believe that Sean McVay doesn't think that Jake Funk Xavier Jones are the true running back two there. So they bring in Sony Michel for like a 4th, 5th round pick, whatever that trade was. So I'm not too worried about that. I think Darrell Henderson should be fine. The safest bet though here probably is Mike Davis. The real safest bet is Kareem Hunt because he just gets like 12 points every single game, but there's not too much upside there in my opinion with Kareem Hunt. So it really is a pick your poison kind of pick here. We are going to lean with Darrell Henderson though, running back of the LA Rams. I love this offense. We already have Cooper Kupp, but when it's a case of an offense that's really good, I'm fine taking a running back and a wide receiver from that team if they're going to be really good. But if it's a bad team, then probably not, right? You're probably not looking to stack players on bad teams. So we're back up on the board here after making that selection. So right now, through our first 6 picks of the draft, we have a very, very balanced roster, 3 running backs and 3 wide receivers, which is what I like to see in drafts. Definitely like to have either a similar amount of running backs as wide receivers or more running backs than wide receivers at this point, because pretty soon the wide receivers, the value is very, very nice. I like all the wide receivers, but the running backs, yikes, it doesn't look the best at that point. So very interesting to see what happens with Gus Edwards in these drafts, because some people have talked about on Twitter, they've even talked about in my comment section, that people are taking Gus Edwards in like the 4th round. Then I see the spin zone, the other end of it, where he's going in like the 8th round still. Now, I'm not going to stand here and tell you that this is Gus Edwards' backfield 100% because it's not going to be. This is going to be like what J.K. Dobbins had with Gus Edwards, but Gus Edwards is J.K. Dobbins, and the former Gus Edwards is now some other fucking running back behind him, right? So I think that if they don't bring in Todd Gurley, which it seems like they're not going to, they don't bring in Le'Veon Bell, then Gus Edwards could be dangerous. Very, very good this season. But if they do bring in someone else, I would worry, but right now it doesn't seem like that is the plan, as they denied Todd Gurley today. So we're back up on the board here, and we're probably going to go with another running back and wide receiver combo at this turn, unless I feel like drafting Justin Herbert, because typically I never look to draft this middle round range of the quarterback position. Typically, I'm either someone that's going to jump up, reach up, and take one of those top 5 quarterbacks, or I take a nice nap, I go on my fucking sleepy mattress and wait for a quarterback like Stafford, Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow, one of those guys. But in this case, we are going to go with a quarterback at this spot, and we're going to get Justin Herbert. Now, I like Russell Wilson somewhat, but again, I do worry about the fact that this isn't going to be a super pass-heavy team. So we are going to lean Justin Herbert. If you wanted to stack, if you're looking to do some insane stackage here, you could go with Wilson and Metcalf, but I personally think Justin Herbert, the pervert, has a better season in 2021 for fantasy football. We are going to lean wide receiver next before too much value drips off of the board here with Jerry Jeudy, wide receiver of the Denver Broncos, who I like a whole lot. But I'm starting to kind of get a little bit more ambitious with my Deebo Samuel, because I was really just not drafting Deebo Samuel in this range recently because I was a little bit worried about Trey Lance, a little bit worried about Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't know what the hell's going to happen there, but Deebo looked good in preseason. He looked real good. And regardless of quarterback, I think Deebo will be fine. So I might have to move him up the rankings a little bit, but Jerry Jeudy is still, in my opinion, the answer here. I don't like Teddy Bridgewater, but the way Teddy Bridgewater plays football is better for Jerry Jeudy's potential upside in 2021, even though I believe that Bridgewater is not the quarterback that should be the starting quarterback, because I think Drew Lock has shown off more in preseason. So we're back up here on the board yet again, and we're probably going to dive into the running back position here, unless I like any of these tight ends. So after we went with Justin Herbert, the pervert, I don't think I recapped it, was Russell Wilson, Mike Davis, Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith, Juju Smith-Schuster, Corvette, Kenny Galladay, Michael Pittman Jr., Brandon Cooks, Tampa Bay, Tom Brady, Kareem Hunt, Cortland Sutton, Myles Gaskin defenses, Robbie Anderson, Chase Edmonds defense, Gus Edwards, and then we went with Jerry Jeudy. Looking here, we're still in that kind of tight end dead zone that I'm not overexcited to draft any of those guys, so we probably will go running back here at this pick, unless we double up on wide receivers, which is perfectly acceptable as well. So we're going to go ahead and get Deebo Samuel on our team. Now, again, I wasn't ultra invested in Deebo Samuel. Earlier on in the offseason, I was very invested in Deebo Samuel. Then, more recently, I kind of dozed off a little bit, wasn't talking too much about Deebo, but more recently, I've started to like Deebo Samuel a lot more. Now, I do worry about the fact that when Jimmy Garoppolo goes away from being the starting quarterback, which I believe to eventually happen inside of this season, that once Trey Lance is the quarterback, that they go to a more run-heavy attack. Why? Because that is what Trey Lance does best, a more run-heavy kind of attack offense. So if that's the case, I think Debo may get less volume, but the efficiency may be much better because the offense will be able to move the ball more effectively. Like, I mean, that's just my thought process on it. So I think Debo will be fine. I understand why you may not want to draft Debo Samuel, because that is going to be a very, very run-heavy team. Brandon Ayuk did end up getting hurt, but it doesn't seem like it's going to be something very, very serious, but it is something to note. So we're going to go ahead and do a kick flip and then land ourselves on the left side of the screen so you guys can see the draft board. After we went with Debo Samuel came Javonte Williams, Matthew Stafford, Baltimore Ravens defense, Will Fuller, Leonard Fournette, Melvin Gordon, Curtis Samuel, DJ Chark. Tampa Bay Bucks defense, the 10th round begins with Raheem, the Dream, Mostert, Antonio Brown, Tyler, Boyd, Jarvis Landry, Zach Moss, Hollywood Brown, Darnell Mooney, Michael Carter, and Corey Davis. I would rather get stabbed by Tyrod. I would rather get a shot like my flu shot from Tyrod Taylor's fucking doctor than draft Hollywood Brown in the 10th round. I understand the upside with him. He could be the number 1 wide receiver in Baltimore, Nick. Come on. We've been buying that narrative for years. He's good for 2 games. He's not Tyreek fucking Hill. He's just a fast guy that's going to have 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 at best good games in the season. The rest of the games, you're pulling your hair out thinking, why did I start this asshole? Like, that's just really how I feel about him. So we're back up on the board here. Still a lot of tight ends available. Still not overly attracted to any of these tight ends, but maybe in the 12th round, one will come my way that I really want to be drafting here. So at running back, Damian Harris is still here. If he was here inside the 10th round, you click the draft button every single time. Every single time. I understand that people were a little bit worried. They're thinking, maybe people were thinking, I guess, this has to have been what was happening. They were thinking Sony Michel is going to steal Damian Harris's carries. That's what they had to have been thinking, because now Damian Harris started skyrocketing up draft boards after the Sony Michel trade. What was Sony Michel going to do to Damian Harris? I've talked about this before. Sony Michel, as Conor McGregor would say, is going to do fucking nothing. He wasn't going to do anything. But now, magically, with him gone, people are now fucking taking their underwear off and throwing it on stage like it's a concert and getting so excited for Damian Harris. Come on, man. Come on, man. Like how did people not see this beforehand? I don't know. He's an insta pick here. If he was available at this spot, I think that is pretty ambitious for him to have been available. If he wasn't, would have went with either Ronald Jones or Trey Sermon. Very good value there inside the 10th round with Damian Harris. We are going to go with a wide receiver at this spot. While I normally here would go for one of the Jacksonville Jaguars wide receivers, I think we're going to go with Mike Williams this time, since we do have Justin Herbert, the pervert, to get that connection. And I think Mike Williams, if he's able to finally connect the dots, it could be good, because if you look at his career, it's actually hilarious. So he has a season where he scores 11 fucking touchdowns. He basically has 2 polar opposite seasons. He has that 11 touchdowns that people are like, man, imagine he gets like 6 touchdowns, 7 touchdowns, but he gets 1,000 yards. Then the next season, he gets 1,000 yards, but he only scores 2 touchdowns. Then the year after that, 2020, 756 yards and 5 touchdowns. We just need to hope he gets like 900 yards, 8 touchdowns, and he's going to be a chef's kiss sleeper this season. Let's hope he finally connects those dots, like I said, dots the I, fucking crosses the T, whatever those people say. I don't remember the exact saying, but hopefully he crosses his T's, dots the I's. I believe that's what it is. And actually, I don't even think that has anything to do with this scenario, but hopefully he eventually connects the dots and things actually go his way this season. After Mike Williams came Trey Sermon, Marvin Jones, David Johnson, Jalen Waddle, T.Y. Hilton, who's hurt. Don't draft him. Don't draft him. He was not a draft candidate anyways, but don't draft him now that he's hurt. Definitely don't be doing that. Kenyon Drake, James Conner, Dallas Goedert, Michael Gallup, A.J. Dillon, Washington football team, Noah Fant, Henry Ruggs, Ronald Jones, Irv Smith, Devontae Parker, Ryan Tannehill, and Laviska Shenault. Here we're going to go ahead and get one of our tight ends here. One of ours, as if I'm going to draft multiple. Only draft one tight end, one quarterback, unless you're not trustworthy of that quarterback or the tight end. I'm fine going ahead and just drafting one of each. Here, it's basically a coin flip. I might have one ranked ahead of the other, but it doesn't really mean anything because they're all so close in my mind. Here we're going to go ahead and get Robert Tonyan. Now, that dude was dependent on the tight end last season, on the touchdowns last season. He scored 11 touchdowns, but don't be surprised if Tonyan does it again. I mean, this Green Bay Packers offense is going to be beautiful in 2021. And now we're back up again here. We're going to snag our final pick here. So looking at the positions here, we got 1, 2 running backs, 3 running backs, 4 running backs. We have 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5, a 6 wide receiver. So we need another running back here. We're going to go with Mr. Jamal Williams. Now, I don't hate DeAndre Swift. Now, earlier on today, I released a video called Do Not Draft Running Backs, and I talk about DeAndre Swift. Now, the reason why I don't like him is because I think he's going a little too high. I think the injury concern is there, and the fact that Dan Campbell's talking about a 1A, 1B there means that Jamal Williams is going to see a lot more work than those DeAndre Swift truthers would like. So I like Jamal Williams as a late round flyer with a lot of upside, especially decently early on in the season because of DeAndre Swift's injury, and it seems like he may not play in week number 1. So after Jamal Williams came Ryan Fitzmagic, Tony Pollard, Devin Singletary, Kenneth Gainwell, Mecole Hardman, Tariq Cohen, Philip Lindsay, Naheem Hines, Rob Gronkowski, Joe Burrow, Alexander Madison, my old bitch lame but my young ho Koo, Jonnu Smith, Sony Michel, Rodrigo, you sunk my Blankenship, Jalen Hurts, Mike Licky, Amagasiki, and the San Francisco 49ers defense. Here, we're going with a defense and a kicker. So, let's go first with our defense. You want to draft a defense playing a not-so-hot offense week number 1. Your answer here is the Denver Broncos. That schedule early on in the season is magnifique. The New York Giants, the Jags, the New York Jets. First 3 weeks, smash every single time. They're going to be these great picks every single week. And then after that, we're going to go with a kicker. And we're going to go ahead and get the boy, Justin Tucker, the fucker of the Baltimore Ravens. So thank you guys all so much for watching this video. We are going to recap our team. Nothing really too odd happened in this draft I feel like I need to highlight at this point. I feel like anything that happened that I thought was pretty weird, I already highlighted in this video. So we got a 92 out of 100. Very nice, as Mr. Borat would say. Our quarterback is Justin Herbert, the pervert. Our running backs are James Robinson and Christian McCaffrey. Wide receivers are Justin Jefferson and DK Metcalf. Our tight end is Robert Tonyan. Our flex is Cooper Kupp. Our defense is the Denver Broncos. Our kicker is Justin Tucker, the fucker. Our bench is comprised of Jerry Jeudy, Darrell Henderson, Deebo Samuel, Mike Williams, Damian Harris, and Jamal Williams. So thank you guys all so much for watching this video. If you did enjoy, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. Again, not only is it free, I put out this content every single day to help you guys win your 2021 Fantasy Football Championship. I hope you guys enjoy the late upload. I love you guys. Make sure that you stay safe, as always. Good boy!